ガンパイロット氏、ウージー氏のパプアニューギニア。ウージー氏は、カンタス航空などでも働いたことのある、退役パイロットで、1970年当時に飛んでいた、パプアニューギニアを紹介してくれます。
Wozee, I think we're able to stand it up to you, mate. When you introduce yourself.
Yes, well, my first name's Greg, but Wozee here, Pilot in the air, and I started my career back in the early 60s. I was lucky to get from high school a flying scholarship in the ATC, so I started off with the Air Force and did my training there, and then I struggled to go back into GA and get the rest of my hours, and I had a private license at 16 and a commercial by 19, so then I had no job, so I thought, what am I going to do? There's just no work in Australia whatsoever. So I started knocking on doors, and I scored a job with a survey company. They said, you'll have to go to New Guinea, it's the only snag. And so I found myself on a flight to New Guinea, started at Goroka actually with some survey flying. And that's how I cut my teeth at 19 years old with a fresh commercial license for 0 hours. And gradually went from there for different companies in Papua New Guinea, spent the next 5 years here in this country flying for Territory Airlines. Yes, well I went from, after 5 years here, I didn't really want to leave, but I knew that if I stayed here, I'd stay forever and that would be my limit. So I did have aspirations. Went back to Australia, scored a job with a company called Bush Pilots, who were a leading GA operator in Australia at the time, in 1970, based out of Cairns with DC-3s and quite a range of aircraft, and had about 60 pilots. So I started with DC-3s as a first officer and graduated to captain on that, flying all their GA aircraft around all their North Australian station strips and holiday destinations, and flying prawns out of Karumba and all sorts of things. And then went to Australian Airlines, flying 737s, and then to Qantas, who bought them out, and I went on with a career of 737s and flew 747s as well, until I retired about 10 years ago. So that's about it.
Very good.
Cool.
What year were you up in Papua New Guinea, Wozee? What year?
I was in New Guinea from 70 to 75.
Oh, good. I got the decade right then in the title.
You did, exactly. I just left after independence.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Wozee.
right behind you
Very
again, so you can
interested
show us
story.
5.1.
Yeah, okay. The tricky one, guys, because you've got to navigate around the trees on the ridge. So you almost got to come up on the side of the ridge. Unless you're chopping down trees, that is.
500.
Wozee, did you ever have any incidents of note?
I'll tell you something later. Nothing that was too scary.
Wozee ここだな。
You guys are at?
Yes.
あれここじゃない。
We land at.
Yep.
No, we're AYSZ. Ken?
Wait, two.
AYSZ?
Yeah, okay.
AYSZ. We're all landing there at this moment.
And the villages sometimes are almost
500.
lined up along the runways, and this one I see the village must be away a bit, Wozee.
Just down the edge of the hill here, a couple of 100 metres, yes. They'd all be gathered at the end when you land, and they'd all rush around the aeroplane too, so it's quite dangerous. You had to sort of stop your prop halfway up the runway because you're always scared some kid might run into it. From the prop, they actually pushed the window right up against the underside of the wing so that it would pop out of the way. And he leaned out that window with his 45 and shot the first dog out his window as he was doing about 40 knots down the runway.
Good job.
Wow.
Show somebody after your own heart.
Yeah. And actually,
That's
there was a
why
lot
you
of
can't have
story.
guns anymore.
There was a big.
ここから、左ターンで、正しいアプローチコースで進入。
You also got to remember that we didn't have turbochargers in the single-engine aircraft we had. They're all naturally aspirated, so at 4,500 feet, you already lost about 10 or 15% of your performance.
So just looking, if you put the drone out, this is quite a pretty little
500.
spot in here, especially look
There
down.
is.
Did you use it all from taking quinine every day?
Yes, my spleen was enlarged for many years after that. The doctors would feel it, so you've got a big your spleen's enlarged. Have you been taking quinine? I said, yeah, for 10 or 15 years I did. 10 years. And I think that goes away. So
Impression, what the hell am I doing here or what, was it?
yes, the first 6 months, I must admit, there were times I thought, oh, this is crazy, you know, especially when you saw someone die the first time. Yeah, there were definitely times when, you know, you doubted what you were doing. And there were times I come home very scared and shaky, I can tell you, to be honest.
Do you have any close shaves yourself?
I remember one trip from down in the Gulf. I'd gone out in a 206, just with a tarp.
Underweight.
Yeah, down in the Sepik and
Oh,
from Goroka. And I'll tell you the story.
What would you be flying into here mainly? Was it cargo?
Yeah, nearly always. This is an interesting story I'll tell you as we get it. Well, most of the pilots had a trade store in all these places, so it's like because we didn't get a lot of wages. If it was a new strip, you'd open a little trade store and you'd fly in your own goods that you'd bring to work in your car, like matches, lanterns, a couple of bags of rice, you know, condoms, tobacco by the box because they'd love roll their own. And you'd feed your own trade store and you'd have a local operate it for you and you'd make 50% profit on all that. You know, that was sort of like a side deal most of the pilots had going. So you'd have your own trade goods you'd bring in if there was any spare capacity on your plane.
Did you or did you not ever bring alcohol in?
No, we didn't. You'd never risk that because it was pretty strictly controlled. You'd risk your job if you did that. You could be fired on the spot.
And there's also on my video channel in this server, you'll see some of Tolly's work. This one's an interesting one. Not too hard, but not too easy. Slope on the left and trees on the right.
正確な着陸ポイントは、どこだろう。
500.
Yep.
Yeah, looks like it. My God, here we
God,
go.
it's a lovely strip compared to some of them. You should have been with us last week when the
Yeah.
Pinball Alley has. Next, let me have a look. Time 5 minutes. So it's 12:05. Well, it's 5 minutes past the hour. Let's call it back at 10 minutes past the hour.
I'm going to need those 10 minutes to get back on that landing spot.
While you're out. Well,
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes you do a piston or something. You just have to wait until they flew a mechanic in. You could do a cylinder change on the strip overnight. You can put up a bit of a plastic tarpaulin and work under that with light.
You come in either way, but as Wozee saying, if you're going to overfly, you need to stay right on the left-hand side to get your turn in. And we're landing on that
Stall.
white patch there, left saddle.
Yeah, like I said, there was a doctor, and then I told you there was a guy called Groper because he had such a bright red face from drinking too much alcohol. You know, his face was very flushed, so he looked like a red groper. You know, so his name was always Groper. Weird names, really funny names. And it was not uncommon if there was they had a lot of children, so if there was a young mother who was suckling a child, it would not be uncommon to see the child on one breast and then she'd have a small piglet on the other breast.
I can't see anything.
Yeah, I couldn't make it. I was wrong.
500.
Trying to.
Oh, hear that lightning?
Your beautiful faces.
Oh yeah, what sort of? This is great weather to do the final approach.
Yeah, it's nice. Nice way to finish the flight. And it's a lovely day. Thanks for all your company. It was fantastic.
Thanks again.
Phenomenal. Thank you for the wonderful trip.
It really is
Yeah,
one
thank
out
you
of
all.
the